What happens when Billy Joel, Seals and Crofts, and Steely Dan fight for places on the same four-song playlist? Come on in. Let's find out. Hey, I'm Joe, or JSB, and this is a new variation of a random foreplay where classic rock is curated by chaos. I'm putting Get Closer by Seals and Crofts against Steely Dan's The Royal Scam and Billy Joel's Turnstiles as we take a time machine back 50 years to May 1976 when all three albums were released. Now, they all deserve an episode of their own. They do, but I don't have the time, so a mashup it is. iTunes is about to generate a best of three choice for each album, and I will pick the best representation of those choices, or just my favourite to be fair, and build up a four-song sampler. So this means that my final selection of four tracks is guaranteed to have at least one song per album, but one of them is going to get a double play bonus track. I will let you know what my options are for each, but you're going to have to stick around to find out if you agree with my choices as they come up in a moment. Be sure to let me know in the comments as we go either way. Okay, first up, Turnstiles. So I can have one or maybe two of the following three choices. That's the opener, Say Goodbye to Hollywood. The closer, Miami 2017. It is playing, I swear. Or All You Want to Do Is Dance. Okay, now we turn to Seals and Crofts and Get Closer. What's going to be the contenders there, I wonder? We have got the title track, Get Closer. Obviously, because that's the title of the album, it's the title of the title track. That's how title tracks work. We've also got follow-up single, Goodbye Old Buddies, or the opening track, Sweet Green Fields. That is tough, I have to say. But my choice or choices are in the mix. And that leaves us just with Steely Dan's Royal Scam. And if I thought either of those two were hard to choose between, this could be the toughest one yet. So let's see which Song of the Dan is going through. The options are going to be Green Earrings, Haitian Divorce, or Don't Take Me Alive. Okay, not going to lie, this was harder than I was expecting. And I was expecting it to be pretty hard. But I've got my final four selections locked in. So now all that remains is for us to hear them in a new random order. So let's do that now. Though, just a heads up before we do, there will be an extended version of this episode where you can hear those four songs in full with me as we go. So check the link in the description for that, or stay here for just the reveals and the discussion. We all know what my choices were, at least what my options were. I know what my final four looks like, and I'm going to hit random play on that right now. Let's see what we're going to kick off with. We're starting with some Sweet Green Fields. All right, Sweet Green Fields, Seals and Crofts, the opening track of Get Closer from 1976. And you might have thought that the title track would be the obvious one to go for there, the big hit single. But, well, Sweet Green Fields is an interesting song for a lot of reasons. It was one of those songs that have been around a long time, and Seals and Crofts did this quite a lot over the years, as dipped back into earlier songs and resurrect them and do them in their new style. So this had been written by Jim Seals sometime in the 60s, 65-ish, I want to say. And it was released in 1967 by a group called the Knickerbockers, which I couldn't tell you a thing about them. What I can tell you is their version was arranged by David Gates a couple of years before he formed Red. Now, that song also, was kind of an obscure deep cut for decades. And then in 1997, it got randomly sampled as part of Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Could See by Busta Rhymes. I mean, I'm sure you knew that because you're all Busta Rhymes fans, yeah? Yeah. And having been sampled once, it's then been sampled again, or the sample has been sampled, if that makes sense. But it's that groove, and and you know who's behind that, don't you? Maybe not. In that case, I'll tell you. Um, this is one of the the many albums from the 70s featuring um, an awful lot of members of Toto before they formed Toto. So you've got Jeff Porcaro on drums, David Hungate on the bass, and David Paich on those lovely keyboard runs. Um, Now, of course, they had worked on Seals and Crofts albums before, but that triumvirate had just come off uh, Silk Degrees with Boz Scaggs, where they were, of course, joined on guitar for many of those tracks by Louis Shelton, who is the producer of Seals and Crofts. So they just back together and did another album pretty much straight after that one, really, and it was great. I actually tried to contact Louis to see if I could get him on an episode to talk maybe about this album or about Dash, who of course sadly left us last month, I want to say, at the age of 87. Either the form on his website didn't get through to him, or he thought talking to me would be a terrible idea, which is probably true. Great song to kick us off. But where are we going to head next? Who knows? I know more than you do, but you've got some idea of what's coming up. Let's see if you're right as we move on to track number 2. And that is going to be Steely Dan, Haitian Divorce. Could you get more difference? All right. A fade out, which is not my favorite thing in the world, but it's all right. Musical fade outs are just about bearable. And yeah, Dean Parks on the talkbox guitar there. And speaking of great drummers, Bernard Purdie on this track, and indeed most of this album. Yeah. So the Royal Scam, out of the 3 albums I'm looking at today, was actually the highest charting of the 3, reached number 15 in the States, but it didn't yield a major single in America. It had 2 singles, both of which were great, The Fez and Kid Charlemagne. Like I said, if Kid Charlemagne had come up, that would have been a dead cert, probably. It only made number 82 as a single. I mean, what the hell? But this song, Haitian Divorce, was their biggest hit in the UK, where they really did not trouble the singles market very much at all. But this one reached number 17, which prompted the album to just miss the top 10 here, reaching number 11. And yeah, it's a cool song, like most Steely Dan songs are, and pretty funky. I mean, people who only know Steely Dan for their yacht rock stylings would probably be surprised by tunes like that. But anyway, it was inspired by their engineer of this album, Elliot, and I'm always going to get his name wrong, Sheena or Shiner, who needed a quickie divorce and needed some time off to go to Haiti and get that done, because it was the only place where he could get it done in time for the relevant tax year, at the advice of his lawyer. So yeah, Becker and Fagan wrote a song around it. I mean, why not? You take inspiration from anything, and that's a pretty wild thing to come up in your day-to-day life. That's Steely Dan's representation today. Or is it? Is there a second Steely Dan tune to come? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, let's move on to whatever track 3 of our 4 is going to be, and fill in these pieces of the puzzle one by one. Okay, here we go. Track 3 will be... Oh, look. Who's getting the double? It's Seals and Crofts. Didn't see that one coming, did you? All right, this is actually the title track of the album and their equal biggest hit, Get Closer. All right, another fade out there with the end of Get Closer from Seals and Crofts, and Carolyn Willis of Honeycomb on the female vocals, obviously. And yeah, as I said earlier, when I was pretending that this wasn't going to come up as well, That was a major hit single for the group, reached number 6, just like Summer Breeze did from the Summer Breeze album, and Diamond Girl did from the Diamond Girl album. Oddly enough, it spent much longer in the charts than either of those, which had 18-week runs, which is impressive enough, but this was in the Billboard charts for 26 weeks, which is phenomenal back in them days, I can tell you. The album, though, didn't do so well, really. I mean, it did get them another gold certification, but it only peaked at number 37. And my theory there is that that was coming off of the Greatest Hits album 6 months earlier. Um, and, because it missed being on that album, the song is kind of a bit more forgotten than those other songs, especially Summer Breeze, which is the Seals and Crofts song people know. Should it be? I'd say they have a lot better personally, but hey, what can you do? It's better to be remembered for something, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, it's follow up a Greatest Hits album with your next studio album. It's always tough. You've got all your best stuff on one thing, and then you're trying to convince people to buy new songs soon after. And a lot of people struggle with that. But yeah, this one did reasonably well, and this song was huge, but is, like I say, sadly little remembered, it would seem. But if you remember it, great, let me know, because I'm not alone. Not that I remember it, I wasn't around at the time. Hey, yeah, and you might think, and it would be a fair assumption, that Seals and Crofts and Steely Dan are quite different beasts. But as I said earlier, we had David Paich on the keyboards on this one as well, of course. And he and Jeff are two of the few people who ever played with both Seals and Crofts and Steely Dan. And I'm sure I mentioned this before, but it bears repeating that Paich has said Jim Seals and Donald Fagen pretty much neck and neck when it came to the biggest perfectionist he ever worked with in the studio. The results speak for themselves. Gloriously produced sounds there. I mean, yeah, that song is one of their safer numbers, tailored for radio play, and they had deeper tracks, like the one that followed this on the album, Red Long Ago, is a fantastic tune that you should listen to. But yeah, as a commercial single goes, that was neat. Now, we're left with one song, and you know which artist is left because it's the one we haven't heard from yet. It's Billy Joel. But you don't know which song I've chosen. So just to remind you what three I had to choose between, it was in the order they were given me: Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Miami 2017, and All You Want to Do Is Dance. Now, I'm not going to lie, not choosing All You Want to Do Is Dance was the easiest part of this whole process for me. But as for what I did choose, well, that is going to become very obvious in about 3 seconds' time. So here it comes now. Yeah, I've gone Say Goodbye to Hollywood. All right, ended up with Billy Joel, Say Goodbye to Hollywood there. I'm on record as saying I vastly prefer the versions on Songs in the Attic to any of the songs that appear both on that and on Turnstiles. But listening to that version's pretty damn good in its own right. And I also had to confess bias because, of course, it was the Songs in the Attic version that I knew first, because that was later released as a single and reached number 17 in the States, and therefore was included on Billy's Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2, which, as you may recall, was the first album I ever bought with my own money at the tender age of 6 years old. Then, sometime after that, Songs in the Attic came into my possession, thanks to my dad bringing it home for me for no reason at all other than he felt like it. So cheers, Dad. And this album came not too long after. I definitely remember exactly when I got Turnstiles, because it was Christmas 1989 and Stormfront was out, and that's what I was expecting to find under the tree for me. But no, I did not get Stormfront. I got Turnstiles and The Nylon Curtain, because, and again, this is down to my dad, it was cheaper to buy the two of them than it was to get the new album. So, hey, my granddad gave me a music voucher, so I got Stormfront as well. 3 for the price of 1. Those were the days. And then I had to wait 4 years for another Billy Joel album to come out because I was all caught up by that point. Can you believe it? And then we know what happened after that, don't we? Nothing, basically. But yeah, today has been a day of great drummers. We had Jeff Porcaro, obviously, on both the Seals and Crofts tracks, Bernard Purdie on Steely Dan, and Mr. Liberty DeVito on this one. And you might hear Billy at the end of that song shouting out, "Hey, DeVito, where you going?" It's a terrible impression, sorry. But yeah, Liberty notes in here that he was getting up to walk out of the studio while Billy was fixing some vocals, and that's when he said that line, and he just decided to keep it in because it sounded real New York. This is, of course, about Billy saying goodbye to Hollywood, moving back from LA to New York, where he remains to this day. Yeah, cool tune. Obviously, Phil Spector inspired, and what I didn't know until I read Liberty's book was that after he left Billy's employ, he actually played with Ronnie for a few years, so he got to play that song with her as well, and says very nice things about her too. Was I going to say anything else about that song? Oh no, well, since I mentioned Richie, great sax work from him. That was overdubbed at Caribou Studios, which may or may not have been where Billy did the original recordings of this album with James William Guercio, who owned Caribou, managed Chicago and produced Chicago, and they put them together with Billy to make this album using Elton's picking band rather than Billy's. And Billy eventually just said, "No, I'm going to do it my own way with my own guys." And this is the results. Of course, part of me wishes that they just met Phil Ramone a year earlier and he'd produced this album, but I've got to admire the man for sticking to his guns and using his band on this album. And Richie's great. I mean, I played piano for a number of years because of Billy, but I played sax for a number of years as well. And as much as anybody, Richie is responsible for that because his playing on some of those tunes is phenomenal. And he doesn't get talked about enough as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's a great way to end a little trip back to May 1976. And I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Okay, so those were my 4 selections for today. Do let me know which songs you would have chosen, whether you had the same limitations on choices as I did, or if you could just have picked any songs from those albums. Also, let me know if this led you to sample an artist or album you'd previously overlooked, or if, like me, you're smart and sexy and loved all 3 before we even began. Yeah. Okay, well, also make sure to subscribe to the channel for more random chaos. And if you do have a favourite artist of the 3 featured today, well, have a look around because they do all have specific episodes dedicated to them. Most of them have several, so check out whichever ones you fancy, and I will just say thank you for watching today, and bye for now, but I really do hope not for long.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.